Hello, everybody. So happy to see you all here. Please jump into the chat and tell me where you're watching this from. I'm personally sitting over in Latvia, but Ryan is sitting over in the US. So if you're new here and if you have no idea who I am, my name is Liz. And if you're new to Printful, we are an on-demand printing and production partner that makes and ships unmatched quality products worldwide on your behalf. So you create the designs, we print and create the products, and then you sell them online. You can check more details in the description, but for now, we're getting right into the meat of things. I could not be more excited to present this live workshop series to you guys, and we're going to get some amazing industry experts, and you're going to get e-commerce advice completely for free. On top of that, you're going to be able to win some amazing prizes, so please stick around for just like 2-ish minutes. You're going to learn more about how to do exactly that. But today, we are joined by Ryan Hogue, who is a top-tier entrepreneur and POD expert, and he'll explain how you can find the right niche for your store. Hi, Ryan.
Hey Liz, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here today and to talk about one of my favorite aspects of running a print-on-demand business, and that is researching what niches people are out there buying, right? It's one of the easiest ways to increase sales, and I know that's going to get everybody that's here excited.
And before we begin the workshop, please do me a favor and check the first link in the description and fill out the form that we have there. It's literally just 2 questions. We just need to know what your email is. We're not going to keep it for anything but this giveaway, because at the end of this stream, we're picking 3 lucky winners who are going to get $50 from us for your manual orders on Printful. So just go in there, leave us a name, leave us an email, and we will reach out to you if you win. But without further ado, you can do that for the rest of the stream. But right now, we have Ryan with his amazing presentation.
That's awesome, by the way, because $50, if you ask me, is more like getting $100 to $120, because if you use $50 for fulfilling, let's just say t-shirts like the one I'm wearing through Printful, you're most likely selling them for, let's say, $20. That's basically like getting $110, $120. So guys, make sure you fill that out. The link is underneath the video. So I put together a presentation. It's not too long and hopefully not too boring, about niche research. When we try to start a print-on-demand business, guys, it's really broken down into not that many steps, but one of the very first steps is literally figuring out what it is we're going to sell. And there's 2 ways to go about it. Like, we can guess and skip the niche research process, or we can say, hey, I'm going to step back and just evaluate the market, look at what people are actively buying. And then me as the seller, I'm going to go carve out a piece of that pie. I'm going to carve out a piece of that demand for myself. That is how I recommend going about launching your print-on-demand business, assuming your goal is to make sales. So I have this presentation I put together. This is me, and that's my dog, Pablo. And together we are going to, he's sleeping, so I'm going to go ahead and take it for him. And we're going to talk niche research today. And we'll have a Q&A at the end, by the way. So I kind of just touched on this. Why bother with niche research? I like to boil it down and oversimplify it. To me, it is looking at what people are buying so that we can go and carve out a piece of that demand. You can extend that further into looking at not just like what niche are people buying, but what product are people buying? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a t-shirt. It could be anything. Printful's got hundreds of products in their catalog that we can sell. It's also, how do we design in a specific niche? For instance, in a month, we're literally about a month away from Valentine's Day. What color scheme is going to be trending for Valentine's Day? Well, I mean, most of us know it's going to be probably pinks and reds. But if you didn't know, it's fine. Just do a little research and you'll figure it out, right? And the month after that, it's going to be green for St. Patrick's Day. Research helps us figure that out. I know those are obvious examples, but. So I like to start with a very simple approach to niche research. I like to use autocomplete to essentially tell me what people are looking for. Now, you can use search engines like Google, the #1 website in the world, for a hint. Now notice, before Google starts telling me like what people are searching for, I typed in what I would call like a seed phrase, not like a crypto seed phrase, but almost like I'm seeding the search with, something. Like if you don't know what to search for, sometimes you can just type in funny shirt, or if it's not a shirt you want to sell, funny product, whatever it is, funny coffee mug, right? And just look at the best sellers indexed under the word funny. Those are always going to be selling well year round, okay? But in this case, this is a popular niche around Halloween, but also, I would say sells year round. Pretend I'm a, and then I left it blank. Okay. And this can be a simple text-based design, by the way. So there's money to be made. And it says, pretend I'm a minion, reindeer, ghost, tin man, banana. Like this is literally taking data from the most trafficked website in the world and putting it right in front of us. And we know right away that people are searching it. Like that's step one. If we want to make sales, we need to be selling what people are actively seeking. So I would start with, if I'm going to sell the pretend I'm a shirts, I would start with that list right there. You can also go to Amazon, the largest e-commerce marketplace in the world. Notice, like we're keeping it simple. Things don't need to be complicated. They can be, but to start off, there's no need to make it any more complicated than what you see me doing here. If we type into the search bars, these websites, and all the money behind them, all the engineering behind them, right? They have determined that it is the best user experience to do an autocomplete. And this is not meant for sellers, by the way. Like when we're talking print on demand, switch your mindset. We're not looking at these marketplaces as buyers anymore. We're looking at it as sellers. They're giving us data that we can use as sellers because 99% of the people looking are thinking about buying. We're the 1% that's thinking about using this data for selling. So take a hint. It's that simple. Take a hint, right? So to me, we're talking print on demand. We're talking starting a business. I want to be selling on, priority number one for me, selling on the number one e-commerce marketplace in the world. That is Amazon. Then I need a product. Now, this is just my personal journey, but I've been selling print on demand for almost 8 years, just a few months shy of 8 years. I started off with t-shirts. The first shirt I sold with Printful was the 𝐨𝐮𝐬 64,000. So that's why I decided to share it as just an idea, right? So I could sell a 𝐨𝐮𝐬 64,000 t-shirt on Amazon, and I could literally make a text-based design that says, pretend I'm a reindeer. No joke, like it can be that simple. That is an example of a niche on a product on a marketplace. Printful facilitates that. They also let us sell on other markets, not just Amazon. So this is just a preview of all the marketplaces and platforms you can connect Printful to sell. I'm a big fan of starting with Amazon and Etsy, but you can obviously do more than that. I also use eBay, Walmart, Shopify. I used to use other ones as well. They used to have like 𝐨𝐻𝑍𝐐𝑔 and Wish. I mean, there was a ton of, there is a ton of integrations. They got TikTok. So make sure that you're aware of that, of what's possible. So what is a niche? To me, a niche is anything that people are buying on a print-on-demand product. So for me, I love fantasy football. That's my thing. It's not just during the football season. I do fantasy football year-round. So I would buy a fantasy football shirt. You add that to a product, and you've got the formula for running a successful print-on-demand business. Keep it simple, right? Another tool I like to use, so we talked about autocomplete, typing into a search bar on Google, on Amazon. You can use Google Trends, which is a completely free tool, to audit the demand for a niche, or really what it boils down to is keywords. So you see right here, I typed in the search term fantasy football shirt, and I set the length of time that we're looking at search trends. This is essentially, it's not telling us the number of people that search it. It's showing us on a relative basis the search interest in this search term. And I set it to 12 months. So we're looking at a year's worth of data. And it comes as no surprise that like when the NFL season kicks off, it peaks, right? And it kind of picks back up at the end there as well. I love Google Trends for making like data-based, like informed decisions where data informs our decision-making process. So if you want to sell fantasy football shirts, the best time, right? This isn't my opinion. You can see it in the data. The best time is mid-August, mid to late August, okay? So that's another tool to kind of just remember is there. Also, if you stay till the end, I'm going to share some of my favorite free tools with you for niche research. You can also go to Amazon, type in, in this case, fantasy football shirt into the search bar. And up here in the top left, they'll give you an idea of your competition. Now, they do not give you like exact metrics on what your competition really looks like. They'll give you a kind of a ballpark number. In this case, it says over 2,000 results. Now, over 2,000 could technically mean any number. It could be 50,000, but I would say if it says 2,000, it's probably under 10,000 if I had to guess. So that's one way of doing a quick evaluation of your competition. And if you use a free Chrome extension that I'll talk more about later at the end, you can have Amazon display my favorite data point called BSR for best sellers rank, which is a relative data point that tells you how well a product is selling relative to other products in that same category. It'll display these numbers in search results for you. So you can do a quick keyword search. You can scroll through about 50 results on that page, and you can quickly audit how well those products are selling, and you can find the best sellers. And if there is not a BSR, if a product doesn't have a BSR, that means that that product has never sold. So I wanted to also mention that. So this is really just saving you time. I'm one of these people, guys. I'm one of these gurus. I call myself a talking head that like I always come back to the like at the core of every business decision I make is time is money. Time is money. With print on demand, you can now monetize your time as much as you want, right? But you always have to remember like time is money. So simply clicking twice and adding a Chrome extension that shows you the BSRs of products in search results, to me is like a no-brainer. It's going to save you so much time. And that way you can use actual data to inform your decision-making process, which hopefully makes a little bit of sense, right?
This data is also so helpful, not just from a straightforwardly, okay, like if I base my decisions on data, I'm going to likely sell more, but it's just helpful on a human level. If you're creating ideas for designs and you're just like sitting there like, okay, what would be funny? What would be cool? It's like starting with a completely blank page. You have no idea what direction you're going in. But if you're looking at this type of stuff, it means that you immediately have some references, some kind of idea of, okay, what do people like? What sells? How do people generally structure their designs? Okay, like they usually have this kind of central piece that draws the eye, and then the big word is on the bottom. Oh, I could do this. And it creates an immediate flow of your thoughts and your own creativity so that you can create designs that not only sell, but also that are going to be much easier for you to regurgitate over and over again and not get stuck.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You can, through using the data point of BSR, and I didn't mention that the lower the number, the better, right? So the way to be the best seller is to have a BSR of 1. And there will only ever be one BSR, one product with a BSR of 1. But you can literally, like you see here in the fantasy football niche, there's 2 pink shirts and there's 2 black shirts. So you could use the BSR as your indicator of, well, should I be uploading to a pink shirt or a black shirt? Look at the BSR and you can see which ones are selling better. Now, I would also not limit your sample to just 4 shirts like you see here. I would go and scroll through at least the whole first page of Amazon data and take note of that sort of thing. You could literally look at every aspect of the design, purple text, white text, etc., and try to figure out what the buyers prefer. By the way, and we will do a Q&A at the end, so I appreciate all the questions and whatnot. Yeah, that tool is called DS Amazon Quick View, and I will circle back to that at the end as well to make sure you guys are all aware of it. DS Amazon Quick View. So coming back to Google Trends, I just wanted to also mention that here in Google Trends, I know it's kind of obvious, but like I was saying earlier, if you want to sell fantasy football shirts, the best time to do it, best time of year, is mid-August to the end of the year. If you're trying to sell fantasy football shirts from January to August, you're barely going to sell any. I mean, look at the data. There's no demand for them. This is why niche research is important, okay? Also, I want to share the concept of a primary niche versus sub-niches. So if I say fantasy football is a primary niche and I type that into Amazon and I scroll through page 1, what I'm going to notice is that there are different sub-niches that are in demand, that are selling. So the personal approach that I like to take is I like to make a list of all of the sub-niches associated with the primary niche. So in the case of fantasy football, here are just a few examples. The first shirt says fantasy football legend. So I would write that down. Then I would go to the next line, And the next one says fantasy football champion with the year. That's a perfect example of a shirt, by the way, that you can sell year over year. Even if you just started print on demand in 2025, mark your calendar that there's going to be a time where the league champion shirts are in high demand. And you're going to put the 2025 version up because you're not going to have to compete with last year's version. Everybody's going to be looking for this year's version. I love those little opportunities. Another example, I suck at fantasy football. Another example, all rise, the fantasy football GOAT has arrived. Another one, fantasy football schedule. And then it has each day of the week. Another one, this is my lucky fantasy football shirt. One more example, sorry, I wasn't listening. I was thinking about my lineup. And then one more, I almost always win at fantasy football. So there's just 8 examples just like that of fantasy football shirts that have different demand associated with them. Like some people go to Amazon, they type in fantasy football shirt and they look at all the options and they pick one. Other people might go to Amazon and they might type, I suck at fantasy football, right? And they're looking for that specific shirt. So just keep in mind, you're not going to please every single person. You always want to have a specific customer in mind when you create a design for any niche. And as Liz was saying, like use the BSR as a hint to study like what the design trends are for not only the niche as a whole, but even the sub niches. Like the I suck at fantasy football shirts, a lot of them are pink and purple. And you know, it's just what it is. Like that sub niche uses those colors. I wanted to introduce the concept of trends versus evergreens. Trends tend to be like what you saw with fantasy football, where there's a massive spike in interest in mid to late August. So if you're selling during that time of year, you can make more sales during that like 1 to 2 week span than you might make for the entire rest of the year combined, based on that's when people are looking to buy them. Evergreen designs are selling any day of the year. They might see an uptick in demand at certain points, but really they're going to sell any day of the year. They're not associated with specific times of year. And I put the boring emoji there, the guy yawning, but I love evergreen designs. That's really the backbone of my print on demand business. So fantasy football specifically, and trust me, we'll move on from fantasy football. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing about it, but I had to come back to this example one more time. So we typed fantasy football shirt into Amazon and we got the league champion shirt with the year. Well, guess what? This predictably will sell every single year at the end of the fantasy football season, which is, you know, typically in December. Let's just say it's like late December typically. So it explains why right here you can see the search interest pick up. Okay, basically at the start of the season and at the end of the season are when you're going to sell most of your products. You don't have to know this, but knowing it essentially helps you make these decisions as a print on demand seller. Even if you know nothing about fantasy football, like you don't need to know why that's the case to lock in sales. You just know that, hey, I'm going to make sales in August and in December, you know? Moving on to a different niche, this is a great example of a trend. We know Father's Day comes in June every single year. So if I type in Father's Day shirt into Google Trends, I'm going to get this peak here in the second week of June pretty much every single year. You can expand, I want to show you can expand the search data, by the way, by clicking this drop down in Google Trends to, let's say, 5 years. And what do you know? You see 5 peaks over 5 years. Each of them are associated with Father's Day, as you would expect, right? We put it in our search terms, Father's Day shirt. Like if you just switch the word shirt to Father's Day gift or Father's Day mug, you would get the exact same data pretty much. And when I say the exact same data, that's because Google Trends does not give us discrete search volume. They just give it to us on a relative basis. So that's why if I say it's going to be the same, it will be the same because it's not giving us the actual number of searches. What you could do though, is you could say Father's Day shirt over here, and you could compare to Father's Day mug, and Google will show you how many people are searching one versus the other. And then you can determine, like, are more people searching for shirts or coffee mugs? So, you know, Printful has a massive catalog of products. If you're deciding between one or the other, that's a good way. And you can do that up to like 5 times. So you could type in 5 different products. This is one of my all-time favorite shirts on Amazon. It is indexed. And when I say indexed, that means like when someone types in Father's Day shirt on Amazon, Guess what? This shirt always ranks really like high on page 1 because it performs really well. Buyers that search that tend to click this shirt, which increases its click-through rate, which is a metric that the algorithms monitor. We don't really even know what our click-through rate is on Amazon unless we're running ads. But the algorithm prioritizes products that perform well with click-through rate and conversion rate. Of the people that click and go to the product detail page, are they buying it? If they buy it, that helps the conversion rate, okay? This shirt performs really well as a trend when people type in Father's Day shirt. But as we just saw, that's like once a year, okay? So this shirt does well for Father's Day as a trend. This shirt also does really well on other search terms. It performs really well on search terms like classic cars, classic car shirt, which has consistent demand as an evergreen throughout the year. So we were talking about trends here with Father's Day shirt, which comes once a year, it comes and goes. But what about classic cars? It's a classic car shirt. It says, I'm not old, I'm classic, and it has a classic car on it. Well, this sells year round when people type in classic car shirt, okay?
I would be so
Another
curious.
Example. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was so curious immediately to see what the SEO was in the description of this shirt. Because if I was writing it, if I just saw the design, I would have been like, okay, classic cars, old school cars, I'm not old, I'm classic car shirt, that kind of thing. But somebody saw this or made this and thought, okay, this is going to be a great gift for a dad. I'm going to write a bunch of terms that are going to be like Father's Day shirt, father gift shirt, dad gift shirt, and that kind of stuff. That's exactly why it ranks. It doesn't just like magically, the algorithm doesn't know that this is exactly the shirt that people are going to be looking for dads. But if you are someone who creates designs, you can look at your design and consider who this might be for. Who would this be useful for? And then add all of that to your product descriptions.
Absolutely. And typically, if something rises to this level of success, it has 9,400 reviews. It probably also has like ads running in the back. So we wouldn't even be able to technically see like all the search terms that they're targeting. But I strongly suspect they run a lot of ads as well. And it's clearly working for them. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can see that in the past month, 2,000 of these were purchased. And I looked at this in December and it said over 7,000 of them were purchased in December. And they make $5 profit per. So yeah, they're doing quite well. Whoever sells this shirt, not me. Hopefully that would have been amazing if I could ever reach like half that level of success in the future with one product. So this does really well as an evergreen shirt on the search terms classic cars. Another example, birthday gift for dad. Now we might say, Ryan, my dad's birthday is only once a year though. So how does that work? But of course, if we expand that scope out to everybody, right, there's going to be birthdays every day of the year, dads that have birthdays. So that's another evergreen search term that's driving traffic to this listing year round. And you can audit that if you want to in Google Trends. Is it necessary to do? Probably not, right? Like your time is money. So I wouldn't fault you for not doing it for every single search term. But this is a presentation and I'm trying to drive home these points. So I went to Google Trends and tried to show you what consistent demand looks like. And also, I just thought this was interesting. Like an evergreen search term that also has massively skewed data that makes it look like a trend would be gift for dad. Because people can search gift for dad any day of the year, right? But also it's going to be typed into the search bar more around Father's Day and Christmas. So there are definitely some, like not all search terms are created equal, right? And when I say search terms, I think of them as niches. Now, gift for dad, is that a niche? Not really, right? I would say that the classic cars is the niche of this shirt, and this shirt ranks well based on performance on a lot of search terms, right? And that's essentially our goal. But you might have to upload 1,000 designs to get one that performs like anywhere close to this shirt specifically, right? Like they're not all going to be winners. That's one thing that I would say. I'm 8 years into this, guys. Most designs and products that I create are losers that never sell. But the reason anybody cares and listens to me is because the winners make up for the losers, right? And the upside is uncapped. You know what I mean? If you have a shirt that sells, what did this say, 2,000 times in the last month, guess what? You don't have to worry about that. Printful is going to go and do the fulfillment for you. That's what makes using a production partner like Printful so special. Some other evergreen niche examples for you would include, cats, dogs, in general, people's pets. That's a great niche to start in. The more specific, the better. Or if you offer customization, that's also a great idea for, an evergreen niche that you can make sales year round. Animals in general, professions, right? Most people spend their jobs or spend their day at their 9 to 5. Well, that's, something that they're going to be passionate about. Really tap into people's passions. Hobbies and interests. Collecting. Do you collect certain things? Locations. Do you travel? What countries do you travel to? States, cities, etc. You could even get more granular than that. Typically, too, the more granular you get, the less competition, and low competition. I mean, I'm just saying that's what we all want. Foods, even names. I mean, you can go to that level where you literally just ask ChatGPT, like, what are the most popular names of 2025 and make print-on-demand products around them. I've done this before. Like, this is an example. I figured I'd show you guys. I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. Like, I've gone to this length that you see right here, where I made fake name tag shirts, right? Like, if you go to a convention, sometimes they give you name tags and you put your name on it, right? And then you put the little sticker on the shirt. You can literally go and sell these shirts on Amazon and on Etsy that say, hello, my name is, and then put different names in the design. Like, this stuff doesn't need to be super complicated. I know, everybody thinks like, oh, we need to go to AI and make all these custom graphics. And it's like, you can do that. I'm not against it, but I wanted to let you guys know that if I pull back the curtain just a teeny bit about my print-on-demand business, for me, I keep things simple. That's my personal preference. I'm also not a great designer, so I had to find a way to make it work that did not require me to be good at graphic design.
I just imagine just baby onesies, but with this exact kind of design. That would also be a fantastic little bit to like take advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've not listed many, but I was just looking at Etsy earlier today and I saw this shop that was doing over $1 million a year in revenue, selling exclusively like baby onesies and like toddler print-on-demand products. So yeah, for sure. So I mentioned I would share my favorite free tools for niche research. And my goal is to make this simple and easy to follow. So instead of giving you like 10 tools, I'm giving you my top 3. Okay. The first one is called 𝐮𝐯 Suggestion Expander. Remember earlier how I showed you Amazon's autocomplete? When you start typing into the search bar, it tries to basically guess what you're going to type, right? If you use 𝐮𝐯 Suggestion Expander, it expands that out to like 3 or 4 times as many suggestions, which is great for just data mining Amazon for ideas. Honestly, like, you can use it a million different ways. Like I said, you can just start with funny shirt. That's honestly how I start a lot of my like research processes, where I don't really have something specific in mind. I start with like the word funny because I think humor tends to sell well. So 𝐮𝐯 Suggestion Expander is a Chrome extension. All 3 of these are Chrome extensions and they're all free. They may contain paid upsells. I use the free versions of all of them. DS Amazon Quick View is the other one that I cannot live without as an Amazon seller. It shows me the BSRs of the products in search results. It's so valuable. I mean, look, over 600,000 users pretty much tells you everything you need to know. And Keywords Everywhere basically tries to extend your search data and give you like related searches, but it works primarily on Google. I've seen it work on YouTube as well. So, I mean, they're constantly, enhancing these things and making them work better on different platforms. But to me, like, this one's great for Google specifically. So those 3 right there, I would definitely recommend as a print-on-demand seller, and really just as an online business owner in general, right? Like, these are just going to help you collect data on what people are buying, right? And as a seller, tap into what people are buying, keep it simple. That's going to hopefully help you increase your sales.
Yeah, it's a great point. It doesn't just work on Amazon. Like, if you check demand on Amazon, it doesn't mean that people are buying completely different stuff on other platforms and from other storefronts. If you can find data from Amazon, most of that is going to be applicable to Etsy as well, or eBay, or whatever platform insert here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm biased towards Amazon because that's where I started, but basically any platform is good. That's why also I wanted to remind everybody that if you're using Printful, they have the ability to integrate with more than just Amazon, more than just Etsy. So I like to say, take advantage of all of those options and occupy as much online real estate as possible. Like every time you launch a product on a different platform, you're occupying online real estate. And keep in mind, like Google is the #1 website in the world. Assuming you're on, like, if I research and make a design and I upload it to Amazon, Etsy, eBay, and Walmart, I check 4 boxes right there. If someone goes to Google and types in like fantasy football shirt and I uploaded my fantasy football design to those 4 platforms, I got now 4 attempts at Google indexing me and showing my product to that customer. So, by the way, I just moved into a new house and I don't have the blinds installed. So this is that time of day where the sun just like comes and blinds me, but it is what it is. It's on me for not installing my blinds. All right, I have like 2 more slides for you guys. This slide is called The Secret. What is the secret to a successful print-on-demand business? And you could probably guess what I'm going to say by now. I don't know what the number is. I'm going to guess millions of people every day go to a website like Amazon, like we said, the #1 e-commerce website in the world, and they type into the search bar, Amazon, I want to buy this. And Amazon says, okay, let me see if we have that in our database. And I'm going to try to show you what it is you want to buy. And if you want to buy it, I will facilitate the transaction as a middleman. That's what Amazon does. Now, us as sellers, all we need to do is audit what people are trying to buy and go sell it, right? I love that Printful exists because, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I have a t-shirt press in our house, but I've only used it like, I don't know, less than 10 times because I don't have to. Because I outsource fulfillment to a company like Printful, I can focus on scaling my business. I can focus on researching, designing, uploading. And I mean, I've been doing it on repeat for years. And, you know, it's allowed me to basically not have to, you know, work my 9-to-5 job anymore and essentially kind of make my own schedule. Like I said, I got travel plans coming up later this week. Like life is good right now. Print on demand has afforded me those opportunities. And I mean, is there more to it than what I just boiled it down to? Yeah, there is, but not that much more, right? Look at what's selling and go sell it. That's what I like to say.
That is truer words have never been spoken. You know, there are so many ways that you could overcomplicate this in your own head, especially if you like haven't started yet and you're just kind of like looking for all of the ways that this could fail and you could not do it and it's too hard and there's too many things going on. But the basic truth of it is if you can unlock that little bit of figure out what people want and then give it to them, you're going to be good. You're going to be golden. You are going to be at the very least on the path to the success that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And there's so many ways to find niches. And I would say start with what you know and what you like. Like I said the word fantasy football so many times in this presentation, but hey, guess what? Like I love fantasy football. So that's what I chose as an example. But everybody that's watching this has unique experience in different things, different niches. And I feel like you should start there as an expert. That's something you bring expertise to as like, you know, something with potential to sell as a print on demand seller.
This is actually like my cue to tell people this is your chance to drop some questions in the chat because I already see a bunch of them gathering and we're going to get into the questions in just a bit. But I have 2 questions of my own that I wrote down and I want to just like dive into really quick so that you guys have the time to write your own down. Okay, so the very first one that immediately came to mind at a specific point when we were kind of discussing the difference between niches that are evergreen and trends. How do you find the balance between the two in a way? Do you have to be focused on trends more than anything and kind of like try to gain momentum, get on the next one and the next one and the next one? Or is it healthier and more promising in the long run to focus on evergreens? Or is there like an in-between?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I would classify trends as there's 2 types of trends in my mind. There's the like obvious calendar trends that come and go every year. And then there's the like unexpected trends, which we saw a lot of those like last year with it being like an election year in the United States, like the campaign slogans for politicians. Like when they announce that, you know, like you can usually like, you know, go do your research on the legal side and everything. But politicians, for the most part, they want people like promoting them and wearing their campaign slogans and stuff like that. So like they might announce it on Monday night and Tuesday, everybody's going and searching for that slogan on a t-shirt. So I would say there's probably 2 types of trends, like the predictable ones and then the kind of out of the blue ones. And if it's not a trend, I would just say most things are evergreens, you know? So I think by far the biggest bucket of niches are evergreen niches.
Yeah, one of those unpredictable trends in my head, the perfect example is the demure thing that was like suddenly out of nowhere everywhere, and everyone was saying it on everywhere from SNL to politicians. That was the bit. You cannot predict that. That is the truest form of a trend versus like a trend that is a calendar thing is like, Christmas is coming. Christmas gifts are coming, but you're not going to be selling Christmas gifts in July. Therefore, that is like a calendar trend. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then the second question is, how often should I, as a seller, be doing all of this? Kind of like going through the research and looking at the trends, I don't know, say on Amazon or on Google Trends. How frequently should I be in there and just kind of like typing up?
So that's a great question too. And it honestly comes down to your goals. When I do like consulting, I always like to ask up front, like, what is the goal here? Because if the goal is to make as many sales as possible in the next like week or two, you would approach things very differently than if you are either starting a print on demand business or you've been at it for a while and you kind of know that it works and you're just trying to set yourself up for long-term success. You know, so it really depends. But if your goal is how many sales can I make like this week or next week? Yeah, you definitely would approach it differently. And coming back to Amazon, there's two things you can do that it makes Amazon really special because they have that BSR data point that they expose to us that not only shows us like, hey, this product has sold, but it shows us how well it's currently selling, like relative to other products. Like Amazon also shows us when products were published. And so if you can kind of tell where I'm going with this, you can technically look at newly submitted products to the Amazon marketplace and confirm that they've sold. And if you look at enough of them, you can look for patterns and trends, and you can sometimes spot emerging brand new trends that you would never ever like think of, right? Unless you know what I mean? Like it's impossible to have your finger on the pulse of everything, but there's a way to basically potentially put yourself in a place where you can stay on top of these new trends. And there's a lot of money to be made doing that.
That is so accurate as to like, I know I've always been apprehensive of super trendy things. I feel like that idea of a trend very often comes from like fast fashion and stuff. I'm always like, no, not that. But it's so fair that like you got to do what works, and what works is making sure that you figure out which of the things that are trending right now are going to be useful for you and which are selling. Okay, I'm going to get into the questions by some of the people who are in this chat right now. And the very first one is actually, how can I get a brand name?
So I highly recommend if, we talked a lot about Amazon, like I would recommend using the brand name generic, which is what Amazon really wants us to use anyways. Without going in depth into what it takes to sell on Amazon using the Printful integration, if you use generic, there are definitely some benefits unless you really plan on like starting a brand with brand identity. And I know people say that, like talking heads love saying that there's value in brands, but I think we're moving away from anybody like the average consumer caring about brands. Like I think that trend started long ago where like you could ask them the last 10 things they bought online and then ask them what brand it was, and they probably wouldn't know the brand of like 9 of the 10. You know what I mean? So I don't think it matters that much. And if you sell under generic, it helps disguise your products because it mixes them in with like probably 80 to 90% of print on demand sellers on Amazon that sell under generic, so that people can't like go and find your specific products and like copy them or whatever.
That is so fair, especially because it's like so integration specific as well. Because the way that you would want to position your brand on a marketplace, it's going to be very linked to the product that you sell. Like you bring an example of Amazon in my head as an example of Etsy, where someone goes to an Etsy shop and then there's like a bunch of designs that are very different and that don't match the concept or the name of the store. That's going to be harder for you if you were so like narrowed down and chosen something super specific, versus if you are like, let's say, a content creator and you sell like merch, but you're trying to get that off the ground as well. It's so important that you keep it under your brand, because that is how you're going to sell it. The value of the brand completely depends on what store you're running. So let's say, okay, we have the next question here. Do you have the feeling that you can sell something here? Only large stores can compete in the clothing market. All the others are not efficient enough. Kind of
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, I think if it's any type of business in life, I always want to know like what my edge is. When we sell print on demand, it's really like the antithesis of going to a brick and mortar like retail store where they have to like pre-order the stuff and then hang it on a shelf, and you know what I mean? Like they're limited in scope in terms of customer to only the people that walk through that store, whereas like we can sell to anybody on planet Earth theoretically, right? At any time. So online business, check. And then we can get very specific with our target audience as a function of that. You know what I mean? Like we can literally our target audience could be super, super, super small that no brick and mortar retail store, like no Walmart or Target, would ever like say is their target audience, because it's just not broad enough. And if you go walk the stores, like you'll even see the design styles differ for when you're like physically looking at a shirt versus when you're looking online. Like how you approach design for shirts that you sell online, I think you honestly like would approach it differently than if you were hired as like a designer to design Walmart t-shirts that are going to be in the store. So I think it's very possible. I mean, I know firsthand. I've been doing it for almost 8 years. Trust me, I would have quit long ago if there was no money to be made.
Uh, Speaking of, like, did you get started in this kind of way? Did you get started like looking into Amazon, doing niche research, or was there something else that you did?
Yeah, I was just browsing Reddit, that online message board, and I learned about Amazon Merch, which was like Amazon's print-on-demand portal, and that was my first exposure to the concept of print on demand. I had no clue. And at the time I was doing Amazon FBA. So that I kind of like learned the two together simultaneously. And that really helped me both. Like I benefited from print on demand because of my FBA experience, and my FBA business benefited from print on demand, like expediting my knowledge of like how to sell on Amazon basically, because I could tinker with like how to optimize the titles, the bullets, the descriptions, and get a feel for like what was working and stuff like that. So
That is so fascinating. Like it's been 8 years, and yet a lot of these things are so still like useful and good to have. There's a very curious question that I didn't even like consider quite as much, but that is so fair. Since Printful fixes all the borders slash legal slash warehouses matters, what about culture? They're kind of talking about international sales here. Interests over country borders, niches versus cultures within countries. How do you kind of like go beyond that?
so my Amazon merch business, they allow me for every design I upload to make that design available on up to 14 products on 7 different countries. So I actually do have like quite a bit of experience firsthand on like how the international sales work. I think at the top I would say like if you sell through Printful, you can't just like list one design, and well actually you kind of can. It's not really about a Printful.
Mm-hmm.
It's more that like if you upload to Amazon Seller Central, for instance, like theoretically you could sell on Seller Central, Italy, France, Germany, Spain, US, and you could push the same design, kind of like how I just described that I do it on Amazon Merch. I will say that like English seems to work pretty well, like even in countries um, that it's not their, primary language. I actually was just laughing because I was looking, I do like some group coaching calls and stuff. We had a call earlier today, and I showed a few designs that had sold in European countries, but they were related to United States geography. So like I would have never guessed that they would have sold, but like, I mean, I'm going to list them for sale. Like I was saying, occupy as much online real estate as possible. So even though it didn't make sense for me to think to list it on, France when it's related to middle America, but like for whatever reason, somebody on Amazon.fr, the France version, purchased the shirt, and so then I make the money.
In fairness, I have not once set foot in the US, and yet I think I own several shirts that are like Grand Canyon themed or something. Like it just is the zeitgeist, the culture, If you know that it exists, you know kind of what it is. It doesn't really matter that it's in a different country or that you are not of the same culture that the people in the country are. It is not necessarily the thing that is going to draw the biggest border. It's a lot of it is going to be due to language if you're going to run into these issues. I agree. But, you know, if you're doing illustrations or funny little things, you don't necessarily need language for that. And the other thing is like kind of figuring out which of your designs are actually culturally specific or not. You know, if it's going to be a very like particular phrase that might even be specific to certain states that are not going to, like, some people okay, it's hard for me to come up with an example, but there are words that mean slightly different things across state borders, and you need to kind of realize that and know that, and if that's going to be an issue for you, you know, figure it out down the line. But the vast majority of designs I feel like could easily work across country lines.
Yeah, I have a whole strategy for this that I honestly I learned it basically last year in 2024. So it's like I started in 2017, and I would say that, no joke, like that I had a breakthrough last year as it relates to increasing my international market sales. So like 7 years in, I'm happy to admit that like I'm still learning. I come in with an open mind, and I like to just use data. Like sales speak for themselves. That's the end goal. So when I see something working, I say I'm going to do more of that and see if I can scale this out. So yeah.
We should do another workshop on international sales soonish, whenever you're like ready to like package up all that knowledge and be able to give it all to us.
Sure.
But we have a few more questions. So another one that is super practical and specific. How do you use AI during your niche research or at any stage when running your business? And do you have any tools you can recommend that worked well for you?
So when it comes to, I haven't integrated AI as much as most people probably have. In regards to, I think the average person's integrating it first with design, whereas I like to do very simple designs, and I like to keep it text-based if possible. Like I'm not afraid of like integrating graphics into my designs, but the way I kind of think of it is if I put a graphic in a design, it's most likely excluding people more than it's including people. Like I think because some people will see the graphic and not like it, and I think that number usually exceeds the number of people that would consider buying my simple text-based design. So I don't use AI as much for design as most. And when it comes to my search engine optimization, my SEO, if I'm selling like anywhere other than Amazon, I'm willing to use AI to help with like writing my titles. On Etsy, it's amazing for like bullet points and tags specifically. The tags with the 20 character limit on Etsy. Yeah, I love AI for that. And there's a tool I use called My Designs that is my favorite tool for that. They also have a lot of like bulk operations built into that tool. So you can like get your SEO done, you know, really quickly and efficiently. Like, and the cool thing about it too is it can look at the design itself and do your SEO based on the design. So you don't even have to like do anything. It will literally just look at the design and be like, oh, that's a fantasy football shirt, and it'll figure it out, you know?
God, AI
That's
is
basically the
smarter than
extent.
me now, I feel like.
Yeah, I know. I'm scared. I'm scared of what it's going to become.
This is actually such a fantastic little bit because we have a couple questions actually for recommendations for a store with tools kind of similar to this, but for Etsy. So you mentioned one. Are there any others?
um, I wanted to keep it scoped to like free tools, you know, just to be
Mhm.
fair. So I don't know that many free tools for Etsy. Most of them, to get like the best data, you have to pay. The one that like I was recording a YouTube video because I'm about to go on vacation. So I'm like, I got to schedule this video to go out later in the week. I was using Everbee for Etsy, and it can do a lot of things. What it's mainly best useful for is, again, it's honestly just getting the data of like how well products are selling. Because what Etsy and Amazon both do is like they'll put products that are selling next to products that don't sell. And if you don't know which ones are the ones that are selling and which ones aren't, like it can lead you down a path of like making bad decisions, or just, you know what I mean? Like you're going to do so much better being informed. So yeah, Everbee I use for that.
I feel like a very good strategy is to also kind of try, well, Google Trends is not Amazon specific. That's a great thing. Or going into like Etsy's search bar, it also has autocomplete. Use that same kind of strategy and look into maybe more narrow, more specific niches where like a product has a bunch of reviews, you know, it's sold a bunch. So you can look into it and see like, okay, why? Uh, like a lot of these like fantastic examples that Ryan you brought here, I feel like very few of them, apart from the tools, like are Amazon specific. A lot of them are very applicable to a bunch of different things. All right, let's see. Do we have anything else? There's another question about similar tools for Etsy, but besides that, okay, I'm gonna give people maybe 2 minutes to figure out if they have any other questions. If not, like this is your last chance. And in those 2 minutes, I'm gonna remind you, to those people who maybe like have tuned in the past 10 minutes or so, just seeing the Q&A. We are running a little giveaway over here. So what you can do is go into the description, and the very first link is going to be a form that you can fill out. It's literally just your name and your email. We're only using your email for this very specific giveaway. We're going to pick 3 people who fill that form in. And in just a moment, I want to say maybe in like 5-ish minutes, we're going to give away $50 to each of the 3 winners. So you have just the very, very last moment to do that and to fill that form out. And let's see. And
can't go wrong with free.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's literally free money. But do bear in mind that that is for manual order. So you can't like order samples with it, but still you can order products. All right. Okay. I think that is all of the questions that we're going to have for today. I'm going to give people maybe like 30 seconds to fill out that form as the very, very last thing. And I'm going to ask our fantastic community managers that are in the chat and helping us out right now to give us some of the winners. Okay. In the meantime, let's see. All right. In the meantime, Ryan, are you feeling good? Did you enjoy meeting our entire audience today?
Yeah, it was awesome. I do appreciate everybody being here, sitting through that, and hopefully it was valuable. That was the point. And some great questions at the end there too. And I mean, honestly, at the core of like, to me, running a successful print-on-demand business is kind of what Liz was saying earlier. You just got to like get over whatever like mental obstacles are like getting in your way and just kind of get started, and don't worry about like it being an overnight success. Give it some time. One other thing I would say is like, I think of things on a 365-day sales cycle. So if I upload something, I'm thinking it has a year to make a sale and prove to me that it's like a winning product. I don't worry about it in a week or a month. I think 12 months. So that's another thing, like perspective, I think can really help.
Yeah. And it's nice also to not get attached to ideas. So this was my problem very quickly when I started doing this type of stuff, because I started designing things that I liked, and then I wanted them to sell because I thought they were good because I liked them and I wanted those shirts like for myself. And you can't really get stuck on specific designs and like try to make them work just because you think that they should. Go data first, not hunch first. It's not going to be helpful. But we have winners. So I wish I had like a soundboard with a drum roll, so you're just going to have to imagine it. But we have Diogo, Kimberly, and Christine. We're going to get in touch with y'all with emails that you left us, and each of you is going to get $50 in Printful coupons to spend on products. Now, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fantastic information. I'm sure people are digesting. This live is going to stay up for people to be able to go back to it and look at all the tools that you mentioned and stuff. But other than that, thank you so much for coming on here and for sharing all of this stuff that 8 years of experience has brought you. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Let me know if you want to do it again. I love print on demand. I'm out here doing it every day. And check out my YouTube channel if you want more print on demand content.
Yes, Ryan's YouTube channel is amazing. I don't know how you do that many videos on such like specific and useful topics all the time. I would have run out of ideas a long time ago.
I just get like, I like the practice, practice makes perfect. So I just put in the reps and try to get better each time.
That should be everyone's mindset. And with that, I feel like we can wrap up. So thank you everyone for joining, and congratulations to the winners again. Remember, it was Diogo, Kimberly, and Christine. We're going to reach out to you and see you guys next week, next Monday, for our next live stream.